here with us. As you can see, she is prepared. So, Roshonna, welcome. Thank you so much for hopping on with us to share all your wealth of knowledge about human resources and all of the other many things that you have to share with us. So, I'm going to read Miss Roshonna's bio. Couple shakes here. So Roshonna Cole is a human resources director at Equinox Fitness, a luxury wellness company. She has worked in the human resources profession for 16 years with a focus on strategy, talent planning, and leadership development. In addition to her corporate leadership, she is a licensed esthetician, okay, focusing on skin health advocacy and the Black and Brown communities. She is a native of Los Angeles, California, and the eldest of four siblings. She has just recently moved to San Francisco, so give her some welcome, a warm Bay Area welcome. And so, Miss Roshonna Cole, thank you again for joining with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for everyone who's hopping on and for the warm welcome, even though it's not very warm outside. And that's probably my biggest adjustment. Moving here from LA is learning how to put on a jacket when I leave the house for sure. But I'm going to go ahead and flip over to the next slide. And I wanted to really just kind of start off with like, what is human resources? Because a lot of times when people think about HR, the first thing that they always think about is like, oh, you hire people or you fire people, right? It's just one of those two things. And really there's a full range and like gamut of things that fall like under the human resources umbrella. So within most like larger organizations and even some small ones, your human resources department manages all of the employees, and the term for it that we call is like human capital. And essentially, like you, while you're there, while you're working, you're an asset to the business, and you manage all the things that are related to your ability to effectively do your job, right? So we support compliance efforts, which is making sure that the company is in compliance with all of their legal obligations. Are they paying you? Are they paying you the right amount? Are they paying you on time? Are they giving you your schedules timely? Are they not discriminating? Like those types of things as well. And a lot of the tasks can include payroll departments, benefits departments, communications to make sure that you have all the information that you need. It can be performance management and enforcing company policies, whether it be managers that are not following the policies or employees. Resolving workplace conflicts, or doing investigations and those types of things, and then making sure that we keep up with all the local regulations. So whether it's federal regulations or California has a lot of labor laws, so making sure that the company that you work for, is not violating all of those. And then in addition to all of that, we also do a lot of recruiting, onboarding, and training you when you start a job. And we do a lot of compensation work behind the scenes, making sure that people are getting paid accurately, and that you're getting paid at the right level that's commensurate to the type of role that you're doing. So it's a lot of that goes on behind the scenes. And if you have a career in HR, you can be what we call a generalist, which covers, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, you guys, so I do apologize if I have a little cough. But you can be a generalist that handles like all of these things for a company, or you can work in a specific department. There we go. Sorry about that. So when I talk about like human resources and what it is, you don't necessarily have to go to school to work in human resources and get a degree in human resources to work in human resources. However, I did go to school for business and my minor was human resources. So when we look at my academic journey, I started off going to Cal State Dominguez Hills, which is in Southern California, and I thought that I wanted to go into psychology. So when I first went into school, I was like, oh, I want to know how people think. I want to know how people's brains work. There were probably some people in my family who could have benefited from a psychologist when I was growing up. So it was something, sorry, that I was super interested in. And then I took a couple classes in psychology, and I was like, this absolutely is not what I want to do. I was bored out of my mind. I barely like passed my intro class. I was like, I have to find something different to do. So I went to my college counselor and I just told her, look, if I'm spending all this time and money in college, I want to make sure I can always have a job. I want to make sure that I can make some good money. And I was really, really serious about not wanting to work like in the public sector because usually those kind of jobs like teachers and stuff and like firefighters, like that type of stuff, they always had to be dependent on like a government contract or something like that. And I just want to make sure that I could just always have a job. I don't want to deal with the public, but I still want to help people. And she told me to explore human resources. And I was like, what is that? I had absolutely no idea what it was. But when she started to show me some of the different classes, like around compensation and benefits and stuff like that, it sparked my interest. And so then I went on and got my degree in business with the emphasis in human resources. And then later on, once I realized like this is actually what I really want to do, I went on and got like my MBA. And then I went and got a couple of HR certifications just to kind of make sure that I was staying on top of everything that was happening in the field because HR has evolved a lot over the years. So when I first got out of college, it was still kind of called personnel, and you did a lot of like taking care of employees' records, filing things, that type of stuff. And now it really has changed to where you're more of a strategic partner. And so you are making decisions alongside the business that impact people and sometimes being the conscience of the business as they're making decisions to say, we understand this is the goal, this is what you're doing, but also please have an understanding of like, this is what you're legally required to do. This is how it's going to impact the people that work here, whether it's good or bad, and trying to help them make best decisions for the people that work here. So right now, can you guys still see the slides? Okay. Okay, sorry, my screen shifted. So right
Yes.
now, okay, perfect. What I do at Equinox is I cover all of the clubs that they have on the West Coast, which are mostly in California. And the thing that I really like about the fitness industry and Equinox specifically is that there's like a lot of different businesses that are all working under the same roof. So inside of these gyms, you have people who do like personal training, you have Pilates instructors, you have group fitness instructors that might do like dance classes, yoga classes, all those types of things. We have a spa inside. Some of them have restaurants inside. And so you get a chance to work with a lot of different types of people and like learn different industries within an industry. And then there's a lot of just cool jobs that I never really thought about. Like growing up, I used to dance. I never thought like, oh, I could be a group fitness instructor and then like professionally teach classes to people. And so it kind of opened me up to a lot of different things. So the cool thing is like, yes, I get to do human resources, but at the same time, I also get to like be in a fitness space and learn about other careers that I may not have thought about. And then also try to get other people to do those things. Like when I think about diversity in some of those spaces, like I hardly see any Black or brown Pilates instructors, right? And so that's a really good and lucrative space that I love to try to see more people in. And really the schooling for it is very, it's not very long and it's not very expensive. Similarly with personal training. And so one of my biggest initiatives since I've been there is to try to diversify some of the departments where I think like we have very talented people that are just untapped because they don't realize that this is such a good industry or field or a growing one that they can be in just with like a quick certification that they may not have thought about getting before. So it's been really exciting to be kind of in that space and have that level of exposure. So I'm gonna move on to the next slide. So my work experience is kind of all over the place. I've worked in a lot of different industries. I absolutely love a challenge and I love learning new things. So I started off right out of college working in hospitality for Hilton. And there I was an HR assistant, an HR coordinator. I got out of college. I thought I was going to be going straight into management. That is absolutely not true. You don't get out of college and go straight into management. They sold me that dream, and you have to have experience, guys. So, and thank you for the note about creating space for Black and brown individuals. I am going to continue to push that in every industry that I work in. But I was getting coffee, I was filing things at Hilton, and just kind of learning behind the scenes. And so for me, that was my first slice of humble pie coming out of college. Is that I may in this field have to start a little bit lower than I wanted to. But the great thing is I learned a lot from my boss. And then when he left, I was able to pick up some of the things he was doing and get myself promoted there. Later, I wanted to make more money, if I'm being honest, what it is. And I moved on to Union Bank as the recruiting coordinator. And I focused on campus recruiting, which was exciting because I was still very young and was able to help people who were soon graduating college understand how to break into new industries. And so that was very exciting. Then I went on to Target, and that was my first stint in like retail human resources. The thing I loved about Target was that that was the first place that I worked that I really felt like I could be myself. When I worked in Hilton and Union Bank, it was a little bit more uptight. You had to wear a blazer, you had to wear like nude nail colors or French tips all the time. I had to straighten my hair all the time. And so I was just like, oh man, this is like, I don't get to express myself. And retail was the first industry where I really felt like I can show up and I can express myself, whether it be through my clothing, whether it be through my nail color, my hair color, and it's okay. And so I stayed in retail for a really long time because it was comfortable for me. It was most diverse. It was like one of the first times I wasn't the only Black person or the youngest person on my team. So I really enjoyed that. And I did different retail companies. I tried Cotton On. That was a Australian-based company. I didn't love it. It wasn't the best company I ever worked for. So I only worked there for a short while. And then I went on to Ross, Dress for Less. And I stayed at Ross for almost 7 years. And that's where a lot of my career growth happened. So when you find a good company and you find leadership that is willing to invest in you and give you opportunities to grow, you try to stick and stay there and gain as much as you can. And so I stayed at Ross for quite some time, did a lot of different roles there. I moved around and relocated a couple times. So I went to Dallas for a year for a special assignment. I moved to Chicago for 3 years with Chicago, and each time they paid for these moves. And then they moved me back to Los Angeles ultimately. And I really appreciate that because I don't think I would have ever left otherwise. I was very comfortable in LA. My whole family was there. And sometimes we have to push ourselves, and that's the thing that catapults our careers. And for me, that was something that catapulted my career. It was scary and it wasn't always fun, right? Chicago is freezing. But, I learned a lot about myself because of those experiences. And ultimately, I left Ross because at the time I did not want to move to Pleasanton, and that is where their headquarters is. And I told them I moved around enough and I'm done moving for you. And so I went on to Amazon. And Amazon was an exciting time as well, working in retail for Amazon and then going and working on the tech side. So it was pretty exciting. But when they decided to first start rolling back their DEI initiatives, their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, my job was being cut. So I know now there's a lot of talk about companies that are rolling back their DEI policies. Amazon was actually the first to do it. They did it right after COVID. After George Floyd, they hired all these people in the diversity space and said, this is what we're going to do. And then as soon as the hype died down, so did the talks. And so, you live and you learn. But during that time at Amazon, because I was with them during COVID, I started getting scared because people were getting laid off, my peers were getting laid off, stores were closing. And I kept thinking to myself, like, if I lose my job, how am I going to pay my bills? Like, I don't do anything else. And so I decided to go back to school part time and get my esthetician license because I love skin, I love cleaning products, I love makeup. I can't tell today, but sometimes I like to really like get in there, beat my face, and go have a good time with that. And I was like, you know what? I need to have something else that I can do just in case, for some reason I get laid off or something like that. You always want to make sure you have different skills. And so I went back to school and got my esthetician license during that time. And it was, yes, multiple streams of income, right? Financial insecurity is something that's big in our community. And I know what it feels like to not be able to pay your bills or to struggle. And I just didn't want to feel that again. And I was like, I have to have a plan A, plan B, plan C. So while I had a job where my schedule was pretty set and I knew that I could do it, I did it. And for 8 months, I went to that esthetician school from 5 to 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday. So it was a sacrifice, but ultimately ended up being another income stream for me. And it was something that it was like a passion for me. So I would do it on the weekends, take clients on the weekends, work during the week. And it really worked out for me. And then it also landed me through one of my clients, a job at L'Oreal. And I worked there as an HR director and a program director for their, they had a management rotational program. And it was a really exciting experience for sure. And then they restructure, and I decided to kind of take the leap and go to Equinox. So I've moved around a lot. And I know sometimes people will look at my resume and they're like, oh man, you moved around a lot. And that's something that like scares people. But I always tell people with each opportunity that I move, something better happened for me, whether it was more money, whether it was a higher title. And so you can't stay stagnant. I always say if you're not changing, you're choosing. Right. So if you want something new, if you want different experiences and you want to learn more, you have to be willing to take some risks. And not every company, when I moved from one to the other, was better. The grass wasn't always greener. And I did have to learn that. And I just learned what were the right questions to ask before I accept. What are the things I need to make sure that I pay attention to? And so it's been a good 16 years that I worked in human resources. So I can't believe it's been 16 years. I'm a little older than I feel. But it's been a pretty good and exciting experience for me. And I always try to tell people like it's definitely a career path that you should look into because even now where AI is coming in and it's able to do things and it'll eventually start taking some jobs away, you can't take away the person to person aspect. That's always gonna be there. People are not gonna want to talk to a machine or a robot when it comes to things that are happening at their job. And so it's definitely, a lot of times it is an industry where you have to start from the bottom. Often it's like a coordinator or an assistant that you can catch on and you can easily and quickly grow your career in that space. And so that is what my career so far has looked like, but it's been an exciting for sure. And so what I thought I would do before we kind of go and I answer like questions and things like that is I did want to give some career tips just based on things that I've learned in my career. Not all of this is applicable to like human resources, but it's just things that I think as you're looking at the workforce and just like trying to explore what you want to do. I think that it's really good to take time to really consider what type of life that you want and then apply for roles that fit that, right? As much as you can. Or if you have a role in mind that you really like I want to do this, look at what it takes to get that and then start slowly, taking the steps to do that, right? Because sometimes if I say on the weekends, I want to have my weekends to myself. It's certain industries I'm never gonna work in because I know that I'm always gonna have to work the weekend in those particular industries, right? Do you like to do manual labor and work with your hands and is blue collar work more of a good thing for you? Or are you more of a behind the desk or type of person? Are you a people person who wants to interact with people? Or are you someone that just prefers to be behind the scenes? Because as you're looking for jobs and roles, your job satisfaction is going to matter based on what it is that you actually like in the life that you want. Some careers that are great when you don't have kids, and then when you start to have a family and people depending on you, like I can't do this type of work anymore, right? My job right now is super, super stressful, and I'm pushing 40 years old. And I told my boss, like, yeah, well, I'm gonna try to get pregnant soon, and I can't imagine myself doing this type of work while I'm trying to have a geriatric pregnancy. That's called. So I'm like, what can I do that's a little bit more behind the scenes, that's a little less crazy and demanding, so that I can like have that space for myself? Because otherwise, I'm just going to be miserable. And kind of knowing that in your subconscious and trying to make all your decisions as much as you can. Because sometimes we just got to do what we have to do. But as much as you can try to start making your decisions, lean towards like ultimately the type of career and type of work that you want. I think that it's good to be intentional in that way. I used to just take jobs based on money. And sometimes you have to do that. And I'm realistic about that. But then sometimes the worst jobs I had were the jobs that I took just because it was a little bit more money. And so you just want to keep in the mind, like, overall, what do I want for myself? Also, having realistic expectations. Just like I talked about, I thought coming out of college, just taking some classes, I was supposed to go straight into managing people. Now that I know what it takes to manage people, absolutely was not going to be able to do that. So, you know, your confidence is great, but confidence doesn't always equal your ability to do something, right? And so sometimes you have to actually have the skills. And even if you're a fast learner and stuff like that, sometimes you have to make some sacrifices and get the skills that you need in order to do and get that job. And when I think about even like my esthetician license, like, yeah, I've been popping people's bumps since I was little and playing in products and all of that. But I had to make a sacrifice, and I sacrificed a lot of my social life, a lot of my after work rest, right, in order to do this thing because I knew long term I wanted, if I ever had to walk away from work or got laid off again or anything like that, then I would be able to say, okay, there's something else that I can do. But it took some sacrifice in that, and I had to build some additional skills in that as well. The third thing is that your personal brand starts the moment that you arrive. And when I talk about personal brand, you know, companies, they have their brand, right? Nike has like, just do it. You know, Chick-fil-A has their brand of like, what is it? It's not at your service. Oh my God, at your pleasure. I can't remember what it is. But like Chick-fil-A, you know, everybody's going to be friendly. Your order's going to be right, right? Like everybody has their brand. People have a brand too. And you don't get another chance at first impression. How you show up is your personal brand. What people say about you when you're not in the room, that's your personal brand. And it starts the moment that you show up at a place. So if you know that you want something, you have to show up behaving and looking like that. People have to be able to see you in that light. And so it's something that I've learned is like, you should be yourself, right? But at the same time, you should make sure that what you're putting out there is what you want to be known for, right? You don't want to be the person that like, oh, that person's always late, just give them 5 minutes, right? You want to be the person that they're like, oh, this person always shows up prepared. And so just remembering that that's very important because people don't know you. So all they have to go on is appearance and those small interactions that they have with you. And that's how they're going to shape their opinion. And sometimes those people are in rooms that are going to make decisions that really impact your life. And then the last ones are really just about being someone who's open and willing to learn and has a network. Your network of people is going to be better than any skills that you can pick up, right? As you're doing even these Workforce Wednesdays, stay in touch with people. As you meet people that are doing the type of jobs that you want to do, make sure you connect with them, learn from them, because most of the time, like that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That's real. That's real. And a lot of times, opportunities, just because you know someone, they can be like, hey, did you hear about this opportunity? I think you'd be great for it. And so, as you're looking at what you want to do in your career, make sure building your network and like staying in contact with people, highlighting what you're doing, that you do that because that's going to be very, very important. People talk a lot about mentorship, and mentorship is good because it's people that can help you and guide you. But sponsorship is even better. And having a sponsor is having someone in your workplace that has influence, that is in rooms that you're not in, that can put you up for different roles, different projects, and can highlight you even when you're not in the room. And so your network should be full of people who can mentor you and people who are sponsors as well, because everyone, the highest leaders don't always know everyone and what they're capable of. But if you have a sponsor that can say, I know someone who's great for that, that's going to go a very long way. And there's no right or wrong way to get sponsors. You just talk to people, you build relationships, you showcase their talents, and then the people will definitely keep that in mind because you made that impression. And then when they're in those rooms, they'll make sure to bring your name up. So that is my 2 cents there. I do want to give time, like leave time for questions and things like that if you have any.
Hey, if you have any questions, don't feel free to drop them in the chat. Questions or comments, drop them in the chat. You can also come off mute and ask any questions or comments for Miss Roshonna. I know she dropped a lot of gems. I've been over here taking notes so I can spit them back to you all, but please feel free to come off mute and share out wherever you may have or drop it in the chat. Well, then I'm going to come on with the gems. So I really love the fact that you had so many valuable things to say. One of the things that I liked most is you said apply for the roles that fit the life that you want. And so that is so key. I know oftentimes sometimes we just have to take kind of whatever is coming our way. But as life makes room for you and things open up, then that's definitely something to consider. Follow your passions, right? That's what I heard. So you're in HR, but one of your passions is being an esthetician, and so for you to make that sacrifice, take the risk. Everybody, move around, step outside of your comfort zone. There are blessings there that are due to you. It requires you to take a step. Multiple streams of income, y'all. Get the bag at all costs. Uh, Okay, here's one right here. Here's a question. If someone is interested in HR but does not have an HR background, are there short-term certifications you would recommend?
Yes. So a lot of times what people do in lieu of like a bachelor's degree is a lot of schools have extension programs. I know like Cal States, they have extension programs where you can do like an HR certificate. And I will say Cal States have the cheapest ones. Out of you'll see some of like UCs and some of the other schools, they're charging like thousands and thousands of dollars for it. And the Cal States usually have cheaper options and financial. Like, sometimes you can get some financial aid for them. And then they just go through the full scope of human resources, and then you get a certificate, and you can start applying for roles. Sometimes, though, depending on what company you work for, they have a bridge where they can help you to move on into HR without having the experience. The only thing is sometimes it takes a little bit, it's a little slow to grow, right? Because you may not have that degree. So some people get to skip you. That's really all the degree does. It doesn't guarantee you're going to be a better HR person, right? It just says, I've invested some time in studying this. So if you have a job that has an HR department, you can always inquire about like, is there an opportunity to shadow, or is there some type of bridge to get into like an HR assistant, HR coordinator role? You can do that. And also, if you want to have a formal training, you can do like a Cal State certificate program, and usually it's broken down into like 6 different sections, and get a certificate that way.
Mhm. Thank you.
That's a
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, Ms. Roshonna, if the questions do pop up, I will drop them in your email. And so hopefully we can get those answered. We sincerely appreciate you taking the time. Raina just dropped in the chat the CSU East Bay, the programs for those who are interested. Just click on, just read more about it. You heard firsthand that it's been a career that she's enjoyed. Raina pioneers repping out here. And so just click on, look over it, see what you like on there. You can always talk with your Q case manager if you want additional information. Maybe if you have some other questions, that we can dig deeper. Maybe we can ask our HR practitioner here if she can answer some of those questions for us. But just explore, see what's out there. You might find that HR is the career path for you. And so, Ms. Roshonna, thank you so much for hopping on with us tonight. Thank you for taking the time just to come on and drop gems and give us information about how we can really break into HR. So I appreciate you. So if we can give her a round of applause for joining. You could have been anywhere, but you were here with us. And so we thank you so much. If you
I
want,
appreciate it. I see all the comments. I really appreciate it. I just want to say one quick thing.
sure.
That is, a lot of things held me back because I let people speak their fears on my dreams. So if you want to do something, there's always going to be people saying, "You don't have time for that. How are you going to do that? Why do you want to do that?" Just do it. Just put yourself out there and just do it. Because when I was going to school, people are like, "You're already working full time. Why are you doing that? Physicians don't make that much money. This and that." Do what you want to do so that you can live a full life. At the end of the day, nobody is going to live this life but you. And you can make anything lucrative. I'm someone who has several businesses, and people might call them my little businesses, but they're still mine. And I still love them, and they still bring me joy. So that's my other unsolicited little piece. But I thank you all for jumping on, and it's always a joy for me to do this. So even if you have questions about HR, you have questions about the fitness industry, don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you. You missed your calling as a pastor. If you all don't have any additional question, listen, and that's on Mary's first lamb, okay? If you all don't have any additional comments or questions for Roshonna, you all can log off. I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday when Growth Sector will be on the call talking about a civil engineering opportunity. Good night, everybody. Be safe. Have a good dinner.